creating pleasant growth, where we're having retail, be coffee shops, and then really activates that front edge. It welcomes people in, it becomes that front door. It also can harness a lot of much needed green space in the area, even though we have adjacent green space around, it's really bringing that into the development. Able to utilize a lot of amenities, being able to utilize previous pavers where we need to for parking, clean access in, even though there's parking that's required off the street, we're trying to do that in a way that's protected and not, pushing that to the front, having the parking within the parking garage as well as some spaces out here adjacent to the retail, and also really providing a place and a destination. I think that's something that's really critical here in this area. As both Zach and Cole mentioned, being a big industrial park, this needs to be something that becomes a beacon and an icon on this side, to be a catalyst for development in this area. And we think that creating this in a way that provides articulation and a welcoming approach is really critical. The other thing you can see with the form of the building is we are maintaining required setbacks that are there, providing some step as we're approaching West Mockingbird, as well as along Prudential on the north side, locating in a few of the renderings you can see over here, really having the welcoming street front units that can activate that street area, provide more of those private yards and the entry. We know that the development's going to go north, and we don't want to just have that be a back of house space. That's going to be welcoming on that side, while bringing in people and activating that landscape. Additionally, just really curating it with elevated materials, creating a nice, smooth textural palette that we think is respectful for the area, but also creating a new standard and I think bringing it in a way that is both welcoming, contextual, and really celebrating the growth that could happen here. Additionally, a key thing that we wanted to include is Mockingbird right now as it exists is not super pedestrian friendly on this side. So we're trying to leverage the existing guidelines we see with the street sections, really trying to activate the south side of our property along West Mockingbird, as well as really trying to engage both accessible and walkable sidewalks, through green space, and really allowing for better movement in and throughout. And then last, pedestrian amenities, as we see really having good large sidewalks, bike parking, accessibility, really just trying to activate and welcome all residents. And we think that can be a great spot for bringing both tenants but people from the neighborhood and making this a destination that everyone can be proud of. Thank you, and looking forward to your guys' comments.
Well, we typically ask you questions first, and then we offer feedback. This is a okay. Next. Good morning, Kate. Sorry, just so okay. Let's start with let's move with our typical protocol. I want to tell the presenters, Cole, Luke, Zach. Zach is a veteran of the urban design here in UPenn. Welcome back, Zach. For Luke and for Cole, the panel, I want you to know the panel is made up of volunteers, and we have different expertise here: engineering, historic preservation, urbanism, sustainability, architecture, landscape architecture. Our interest is in making the city a better city, one piece at a time. We work with the opponents, developers, architects. We offer feedback, and we look for win-win situations, although that's a cliche, but we do believe in that. But if most projects can serve the interests of the developer, of the architect, and of the city without jeopardizing any of the parts. So that's what we do. Okay, so all of our comments are provided given with that in mind. Okay, with that, let's start with questions, and then we can offer feedback. Faisal, would you like to start? And if you have any questions for the team.
No, I have. First of all, great presentation, and also I think this is the record fastest presentation.
No, yeah, very clear. All done.
Typically we wait to get started, but, so I do wanna ask a few questions, maybe, other peers have the same, or some of them. Can you walk me through how this, lobby area, right, the first drop off is gonna work? Is it two driveway curb cuts that are existing, or they're, yeah, right there?
Yeah, so we have a curb cut here. We feel like having this loop is gonna be really critical off West Mockingbird. Our current lobby's housed on this side that is gonna allow for both visitor and future tenant parking that could be either here or in the garage for quick access. As well as, providing some critical parking spaces that we need on the front side in order to actually get these from there.
And then is either of those, that they are existing curb cuts or proposed?
The middle one is the same,
Yeah.
and then I believe the one all the way to the left is.
Okay, so I'm assuming that was lined up with the median opening on the street?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So this will be open turn on the out.
that would be a right on the.
Yeah.
Okay, also, what about the garage entry? Is that, I see one right there, like on the.
Yeah, so we have a,
Yeah, is that the only entry and exit? or-
we have a garage entry here, here, and here. And that's also,
Is that like a little view running on the east side? Is that a dead end view or it connects to the street up on?
yeah, this, we have a fire lane on the east side and a fire lane on the west side as well, so all those. We have access on both sides from Mockingbird up to Prudential.
Okay, so that is a fire lane that is running on the east side,
Yes, sir.
okay? And, one other thing I was gonna say, looks like, you have done some analysis of trees that are being saved. There was I've already done like a very rough grading plan to determine what building elevation are was. Reason I was asking this, I'm trying to, looking at that section. Is that by design that you want to create some separation? Like, can you explain that just a little bit, the very northern, I really like it. Just want to make sure that is along Prudential. Is that within that setback? You see, like I look up on there, there's a dark green shade.
Yes.
Is that where the private courtyard is and then the steps come down?
That's correct, yeah. So these are all partially elevated just to help give some privacy and some setback from that area. Because we know that development in the future is gonna occur there, but right now it's just industrial park. So we're gonna create some privacy for those units.
Yeah, no, very nice. And can you final question, can you tell me more about the condition of existing sidewalk on both streets? How wide they are and how far off they are from the curb? Is that-
They're terrible. They're terrible and, we're upgrading to, I think it's 8 foot on the, oh. So, yeah, we're upgrading to 8
Do
foot.
you have section here on that? Is that a little bit,
So one section is where the retail is, it's actually an 11 foot sidewalk, but it's got the tree wells too. So that's gonna kind of take it down on certain sections. And then this, I believe, is Prudential, and that's 8 foot sidewalks.
but isn't that on private property, right?
Yeah.
Along the public front.
Right, so we don't have, I don't think we have a section that's on the board right now that has the
Okay,
photo.
but this is showing, so this is that pretty wide sidewalk,
Yeah.
retail. Is that all on private property or is it on public property or? is
On
it-
Mockingbird, it's in the right way, and on Prudential.
Okay, so this sidewalk is in public right of way,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, and this is 8 feet or 8 feet?
Mhm.
Okay. So then,
Any question? No.
I just have one question, and it's my standard question. Architecturally, where are we with this? Is this a real design or is this a placeholder for future design? A lot of things come in, I mean, they just need a building, they put a building in, it looks like a real building. Is
No,
this
we-
really what you'll build?
Yeah.
Okay, the second question is,
So, excuse me, Norman, just to clarify. Are we in schematic design development, CDs, where are we?
I'd say we're end of schematic, end of schematic.
okay, so it's real.
Yeah.
This is what we think it will look like.
I mean, we could have brought the boxes.
That's fine. We get a lot of things that look like that aren't real. It could be anything. I want to.
No, this
And
is,
that's part of the urban context, and I want to make sure I know what we're. You know, it says, if it's real, I'm not commenting on it. If it's not, we can next time. I will ask one question. Oh, well, yeah. If it's not real, you can come back, but it is, and you're good. Just a real quick question. What do we anticipate on that roof since we have this monolithic something or other going up the sides and across the roof? Is that, are we that far into the detail? I didn't achieve that.
Yeah, so right now,
Continuous color and texture, the way you're showing
and
it.
it's a great question. So what we've defined right now is these masses are all metal panel with a standing seam metal roof. So we want to make sure we have integration of that, knowing that we have to maintain.
So you're bringing roof material basically all the way down. Okay, that's what I need. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. Yes. Question?
I think it's not really a question of it.
Okay, all right. How about Sarah?
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing when bike parking is called out on a plan. How are you seeing bike circulation happening? I don't believe there are any Mockingbird plans in the Dallas Bike Plan for future expansion. I would love to know about how you're conceiving of bike and multimodal mobility.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, one of the things that we view shows that, you know, there's multiple bus stops that are occurring across Mockingbird, so we think integration of that's gonna be critical. You know, as Eric mentioned too, you know, there are some additional green spaces that is already occurring here, and so, you know, there's already a bike path that's occurring along part of the waterway as well, so I think integration of that's gonna be critical. You know, we can only do so much outside of our site, so we can just make that bike friendly, and we know that if residents or visitors are coming to the site, we want to make sure that we can provide all means of transportation to the location.
Okay. And similar question about materiality. I noticed that there's a really excellent diagram about stormwater retention. Is that mostly from roofs, or is there also thoughts about pervious surfaces on ground plane?
I think it's gonna be both, so we think water collection from all portions of the building, from the roof, can be collected down into catch basins. We do think that, especially on the retail plan, wherever we have to have a fire lane that's required in the building, that's gonna have to be, you know, on the surface, but wherever we have, you know, any parking lot here that could be, you know, more for pervious, really trying to emphasize the collection of that, and also tie back to either using that for rainwater harvesting for irrigation, but also in tandem with creating more regional and low water landscaping.
Final question, have you had a landscape architect look at the Article 10 requirements along Mockingbird specifically at this point? Maybe not yet.
A little bit, but we are actually further along on the tree survey and all that stuff than we're showing on that board. It was honestly too much information.
Yeah.
To get on a board that really made sense, but yeah, we're definitely cognizant of it and.
Less about tree survey, more about the requirements of how many street trees you have to have at what space along Mockingbird. Okay, all right, great.
Good.
I don't have any questions.
No questions. Okay, my only question to you guys is, this board right in front of me. Is that a retaining wall? It is, right? Right there.
Yeah.
And how tall is it? Look, or that? Do we have a?
What's the maximum height where it's Mockingbird? That we're gonna look.
Well, I'm asking, how do we know how tall it is, that retaining wall? I see, let me go back to the site plan. We can look right on the site plan. So this is at grade. Correct, is that grade? And here is a retaining wall. So the street slopes down this way, site is flat. What is that delta right there? Which is what we are looking at here. I ask because it looks pretty tall.
Yeah, it looks to be about 7
But
feet. It looks to be like 7 feet.
it looks to be exactly like, but in looking at this, we cannot slope around 7 feet in this stretch. So I'm a bit confused and trying to understand.
Yeah, so I think part of that too, as you can see, we have quite a bit of fall that's occurring in this zone, so this whole area is kind of lower. how much of this needs to get retained, how much is getting brought up and brought down, like that's something we're still trying to work through in this.
Still in flux.
Yeah, but what we're trying to capture in that image too is that there's gonna be some form of retaining, we don't wanna have it in a way to where we're creating a barrier between.
Yeah.
But at least articulating that, and whatever material we do with that, it's gonna be welcome to signage, at least creating a front, marquee for the development.
Okay, all right. Excellent, thanks. Okay, so now I think we can turn to feedback to the. Faisal, would you like to start with feedback?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So I think we tried on one of the things that I was looking at, it is probably one I did bring my classes, that I always forget. But I just think that either just please confirm your lot lines on the right of way. And this is why I say that I asked you the question whether that sidewalk is for public or private, you said it's for public. But based on the images, it doesn't look like it's for public. And also, when I look at, see the frame, all these contours are ending in line where your dot mat line is. That is not the lot. It can't be because from the edge of curve to the lot line, or modular garage will have at least 10 feet.
Yeah, I agree. It's rendered incorrectly.
Okay, so if that is the case, I guess my first suggestion would be, please take a look at it, because I feel like we end up with two sidewalks. One within public sidewalk portion from right of way to the curb, and then your other circulation one. And maybe a better one would be to combine the two, all it would require would be sidewalk easement on the floor. But you will have much nicer private side. So that is one. My second suggestion would be to please take a look at, I know you said you have done the grading, but looking at the grades, I see it difficult to save some of these trees that you are showing to be preserved. As an example, if you look at this on the southwest corner of the retail, those big trees, and it's just like you mentioned, if that grading is done, I don't think those trees are gonna survive. So as you fine tune the design of the grading, please take a look at it. And I have the same concern with the garage entrance that is going in. I don't have any finished floor elevation right now to tell how much that dirt is gonna move up or down. So that will be one. And then also, one suggestion I would have is that if you look at that drop-off area, you may want to consider, instead of turning 90-degree parking on that, rather make it a 60-degree angled parking. And the reason being, whenever the road turns like that, it is very difficult to efficiently use head-in parking. And even if you somehow make it in, it is very difficult and dangerous to move back out. So instead of that, it's actually would work a lot better if you just have angle parking, either facing or rear siding. Since it's on private property, so you won't have any problem with that. I would highly recommend taking a look at that and adjusting that a little bit. I love the concept of having this great separation from the street to the units on the back. Makes it a much pleasant experience on those units. But again, my only recommendation would be, because I can't tell right now which one is the public sidewalk in your sections and which one, if it is the same as on the south side, just the same, I can't get the feel, but I think we're on the right track. So that's my feedback. Also, final thing is, because this area there is a lot of retention problem. If you just go further east, there is some huge detention ponds on the south side of Mockingbird. So I would recommend, how much of this is already developed? What was the is covered, you know?
It was previously office space that had been demolished.
Okay, so that's good. You hopefully, you won't have to do a whole bunch of detention, but I would recommend that you run that trap early. Because if you do have to do it, then you want to plan around it, maybe tie that into your landscape, greenscape design. Lately, city has been very hard on making sure that we have that covered in the design, so that's what.
Next person, Norman, please.
Sure. As a college student, I knew this area. I was a delivery truck driver in the summer. And I spent a lot of time in that part of West Mockingbird. And even in the '70s, even in the early '70s, this was the most bleary, distraught, unpleasant place that I ever got to go. And I bring it up because it hasn't gotten any better in the half century since I did that, which is fairly remarkable. So all of that is to say, I love this. I think this is fantastic. It's starting to interject a lot of things into this neighborhood that, once again, we talk about the Bell Cow projects here. A lot of these is one of those. It will influence things, I think, coming forward, that everybody will look and go, oh, there's opportunity here, and then we'll see all kinds of stuff. I think you're on the right track with the way you've done the retail and all in the front, and keeping the apartments back a bit. I think that's fantastic. I find the architecture very interesting. But to me, it looks like West Dallas heavy industrial, where in this case it's all that sort of bleak, not quite filled up yet, sort of formless office warehouse. So this will be a nice foil for that. So I think it's a great project. I have just one concern, and that is I fully appreciate the power of median cut, but I absolutely hate that central drive through there. And I guess the median cut's the real motivation, because when I first saw it, I thought, well, the only reason for doing that is so people don't have to back their cars up.
No, there's also a big storm drain right through the site.
Okay, and how does that help then? I'm not,
The cut, like the drive,
yeah,
Can you show us like on the phone?
I'm not quite sure.
you're talking about this one, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
The little one down here about the retail.
Oh,
See, you should, I would love to see where you connect the Grove
okay.
with green space to the retail. And you come over here, that little drive-through, it's like a hotel or something. And you're not just using much of it for parking. I don't think you need parking. I think you'd be better off with all of the parking behind the Grove space there, filling in that net. I mean, netting the Grove up with the retail and not having a drive there. The downside would be when you're gonna miss your median cut. I don't know if that can be fixed or not. And the people who park there will actually have to back out their space and turn around. Now, I have a friend whose car backs himself out of spaces, so I think that's a last century concern, not something that we have forward. So that would be my only recommendation. I think it's great otherwise, is we have three, with pedestrian along here, but we got 3 automotive cuts right along that limited street exposure. And I think that middle one, I can't remove. That's my comment.
Excellent. Good point.
Yeah. Wanted to echo Norman's comments about the ambition of this project, and not only the ambition to make it affordable and the ambition to put it in an area where nobody needs support, but also the ambition to highlight some focus on sustainability. So that's really where I'm going to start with my comments. The first thought I had is pulling back from it a little bit. Since you're kind of setting the agenda on the Mockingbird, I started trying to imagine how is this front retail piece going to affect the way we as pedestrians move through all of the new buildings that will come on the sites on either side, when everyone has realised that they should be doing this too. And I realised that actually there isn't, I don't think, very thought through pedestrian experience of this front piece, because if I'm walking along Mockingbird, I can't really make use of this retail. You know what's really nice is when you can walk between the retail. So I was thinking, oh, there's probably a way that somehow I enter the site, I walk between the retail, I look at it all, and I carry on to where I'm going next. But actually, you enter this building through the centre, so it really is designed for the cars to come and park. It's really not designed primarily for pedestrians, because if you come here, it's because you're somewhere nearby and this is your destination. It's not a pass-through experience. I don't really know how you would fix it. I wondered if, for example, that central stair in that building could be at the end so that you could walk through the grove, walk through the middle, and then come back down. Yeah. This primary entrance of the building here, if that could be over there somehow, so that I could come walking on here, pass through there, and then carry on. Something like that.
I guess if we incorporated Norman's comment
Yeah.
here, then maybe this becomes more of a pedestrian entrance too.
Yeah.
That looks
The other thought I had, similar to Norman, I didn't like that pair of curb cuts right there, because it just seems striking for me as pedestrian cut with those cars. And then the first thought I had was, well, certainly at least it should be one way, since you can't turn left here anyway, you can't cross from this side.
Correct, yes.
So-
And indeed, currently, this is only the.
Should be one way, okay.
It's the yellow line.
So if it's one way, it can be a lot narrower, yeah.
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought we had a median cut here, which allowed people to come in.
No, the meeting that's on the major.
On that one?
Yeah, there's no.
Oh, then that's one less reason to have that.
Yeah, so this one is only
Okay.
happening.
Well, there you go.
I see where you're
Thank you.
taking that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it has to be look at that,
An arrow going in, yeah.
the medium cut is private up in the middle of the drive, not the end of that.
We'll have to start.
And then I thought, you know, if there's a way to make this whole road retail thing set up. And I think we'll do here, like if it could be an incline crossing up here, so that whoever builds the next one over here and the next one over here.
So that
takes
would
that
be
on.
secondary. That'd be interesting.
I think it would be really, it'll start to set an agenda bigger than one of your sites. So that was my kind of first jump into it. The other thing that, it's a pet peeve of mine, but it's a really interesting idea to have a project that's trying to be super sustainable. And I glanced at the plan at the beginning and I thought, oh, well done. The buildings are all long faced on the north and the south and short on the east and the west because of the dark roofs. And then I realized, oh no, there actually are buildings in the pale yellow as well. And then I looked at the windows and they're all the same. And so I want to just push the architectural team to think about how the south facing windows and shading could reduce gain on that side, and how the east and the west facing with all the little balconies could do something to be a little different. You know, in Dallas, we ought to be treating our east and west facades different from our south facades and different from our north facades. And I know it's going to be a long haul, but the projects like this and set themselves up to be sustainable could maybe set the agenda on that. So I would encourage you to think about the detailed design of those facing facades. It would be nice to be able to put this up as an example in my classes and say, look, they did it. Then my final thoughts are these two basically fire lanes running north and south. I think they'd be more comfortable to walk along if they had some on-street parking in them. I know that might take some figuring out in terms of the actual dimensions that you need for the fire trucks and so on. But those cut-throughs are just always more comfortable for walking. If
When it
there's
looks like a real
some
street
protection.
versus just like an alley almost.
Yeah, exactly. If there's some protection from a couple of parked cars and, you know, an occasional tree, I know you can't fit all of the things all the time, but even just 3 cars parked along there makes it feel more livable.
Sorry, where are we talking about?
The two fire lanes front of the water.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, one little tiny thing, where the water action from the roofs. If you're gonna catch water off the roof, you need a gutter along that edge, right where metals curving over the corner, so, I mean, I'm sure you probably thought about that, because you've got that little diagram over the water.
You set this, you set the facade off some and hide the gutter behind that.
Yeah.
It's main effect.
Concealed internal, yeah, exactly.
I don't know water, that's their problem, but yeah. It can be done. But I think that's an important feature, it doesn't read here as, you know, metal. It could and should, when you actually get it done in metal with like a standing seam on it. I think that's actually a very strong architectural feature, and having continuous like that is ambitious, and I would, yeah, I like to see that happen.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, I wanted to start with equal celebration of the ambition of this project. I think it's really exciting, especially knowing that UT Southwestern Hospital is going in and going to require so much workforce and staff. The idea of more workforce housing is super exciting. So thank you for kind of pushing the envelope on what's possible with workforce housing. I think my biggest question of the landscape architect on the panel is just about the tree strategy. I think that sometimes landscape architects overutilize the street alley as like a homogeneous kind of way to shade the street, but actually here you have the really interesting opportunity to have new plantings which complement the old plantings that you like so purposefully have preserved, which I think has a lot of benefits for the urban forest in terms of like trees of different ages that can be replaced at different times. But I think that just preserving is not quite enough here. I love this perspective with this, like, maybe it's an oak tree kind of overhanging the top. There's not actually any oak trees planted in the median of Lautenberg. Like, it's gonna be a really hot site. So I think interplanting with some additional canopy trees on all of the roads, frankly, like even in the back along Prudential, but especially on Mockingbird to make that pedestrian experience all the more welcoming. I think that the retail itself is pedestrian scale, which is great to be able to see it through the canopy, even if you're driving. You know, there's sometimes a lot of hand waving around and trees obscuring, retail spaces, but I think actually here it works really well the way that it's designed, and the trees will enhance that. And I echo Faiza's comment about the sidewalks and looking at kind of the right of way, because I think there's also a rendering of this guy on his bike, right? I think that's what's going to happen is people who hopefully one day when Harry Hines gets its bike lanes, that if you are on a bike, you're just going to use the sidewalk here because there's no planned bike lanes. So I think maybe making out a 10-foot sidewalk could be a really comfortable dimension to accommodate the occasional biker. We're not thinking that this is going to be like a super popular bike spot right now, but I love the idea of accommodating that and having that public bike parking too. And I think overall, just, yeah, surprise, surprise, landscape architect says more trees, more green. I think anywhere that you can do the permeable paving will be helpful just in terms of thermal comfort as well for the folks that are spending time in this area. And really trying to squeeze as much, like for this through road too. I don't think it has a name, does it? This fire lane right here. Potentially even lining that with trees as well for that thermal comfort factor. The last thing I was gonna say, what was that? Just that because there's so much building on the site, which is totally appropriate for the density here, it's carving out any kind of planting areas in that retail is going to be big too. I know you want to invite people and have hardscape areas, but having that greenery is going to be important. I make renderings like this too, where it looks like a rain garden behind the curb cut, but in reality, it's going to be probably a multi Bermuda grass, right? So I think thinking of ways that you can bring that kind of lushness into the development, we'll just answer it over.
Thank you, Steph. Kate, any feedback?
Yeah, it's minor. I mean, one of the best things about going last is that everybody else has really good comments that I wouldn't have thought of. So, finally, I will echo my colleagues in saying that I appreciate so much about this project. I think pushing for more density is something that we desperately need. And so from the get-go, I think that was a great move. So thank you for that. I think my only comment would be that I I appreciate that you're thinking about this in section and working with the topography instead of trying to just flatten the whole thing out and have some kind of monolithic experience. So I'm glad that Eureka asked the question about the retaining walls, because I think that you could have a really nice sectional experience through this whole property, but be careful with the retaining walls, that it doesn't just turn into a big massive set of concrete steps. So just thinking that part of it through when you go through the next couple of phases will be really important. But I also think that the way you're approaching the retail part of this is really nice, and it's something that we're always pushing for in these projects, is how to incorporate retail in a meaningful way so it's not just sort of plopped into the bottom of the plan. And so I think you're creating you're doing some nice placemaking here. There actually is some character to this. Like, I would want to live in those townhouses with the stoops, like, so I hope that in reality, you're able to render the reality as nicely as you have rendered the design. But I think it's a really great project, so I thank you for bringing it to us.
All right, so, Luke, Zach, and Cole, thanks for your presentation. Thank you. You have heard from everybody. The project is well received. It does need attention here and there. I echo, reinforce comments that you heard before from Jesse and others regarding the central role here and the need. Maybe there's not a need for this middle curve cut, better integration between retail and landscape. Yes, as Skate just mentioned again, the corner, the southwest, land southwest corner retaining wall, maybe that becomes the access to retail, as Jesse suggested. But those are all tweaks. I think the project is a wonderful thing for this part of the city. And finally, Norman will be able to see some change in this area.
We need to get a bit of deliveries.
We need to hurry
I
up.
know. Go deliver a pizza there and see how it feels.
So, well done to all of you. One of our panel members couldn't make it, but couldn't make it to the meeting today, but he sent 3 comments that we would like to share with you, and they are going to be part of the record here. So, James Fry is a landscape architect, urban planner, and James says, number 1, consider saving the very large specimen live oak trees identified for removal. We heard that before. If healthy, could some be relocated to the retail plaza space, now that we are enlarging the plaza space, which feels a bit lacking in shape? The northeast corner of the site, far western corner of the property, midway up, or phase 2 site for future use. So, bottom line, try to protect the tree. Don't kill trees. Yeah, Sarah will be upset with you. Number 2, could the tall retaining walls to the west, talk about that, be stepped or slightly terraced and planted to minimize their overall scale and visual impact? So look, we go by whatever you show. If you show that image, we believe it. And if that image shows a 7-foot tall retaining wall, we think it is 7 foot tall. Well, I don't think in reality it's going to be, so be careful what you show. We react to what you show. Yeah. Okay. Number 3, while giving a very natural sense, the trees, grasses, coming back to Sarah again, the trees, grasses, rainwater cisterns, and elements like the permeable paving will require the appropriate maintenance as they mature. And this is the kicker. Will there be proper funding and attention given to these and other unique site elements over time, so the intent is achieved and maintained? So it's not about having it great, beautiful on day 1, but is this going to be maintained? Because if not, we know what happens. So I know you don't have an answer now, but something for the developer team, or you police on your shoulder, to make sure that all the good intentions shown in the plans can actually live up to expectation.
And one thing I forgot to mention in my intro is we generally do, there's a lot of merchant builders out here in Dallas. Most of what we build, we tend to hold for at least 10 years. So we allocate CapEx expenditures. So we would definitely make sure that those are paid attention to.
Excellent. Any other comments from plan? No? Great. Did you have a chance to to take notes? Do you think?
I did. Very good,
Will you
yeah.
be able to share a quick summary? By the way, the team exactly of this, Goldie, you will receive all these comments in writing in an organized form from Ray, okay? But for now, Ray will read back what the notes that he took.
I will, okay, so for Faisal, talking about site planning, the lot lines, make sure you double check on that, looking at the sidewalks. I think Sarah and Faisal both mentioned that 10-foot wide, single, multi-use path sidewalk, would be better. Looking at grading, how do we do tree preservation with the grading, working with the topography. Consider the 60-degree angle parking. Stormwater retention norm, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, on that note, the 60-degree angle parking, Jack, would you please this board? So everybody, just.
See, it's.
You're referring to this, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So now that we are recommending the elimination of that drive, I assume that parking would happen over here. And
I
that
actually
would-
was gonna say that I strongly second the suggestion that
Yes.
made to eliminate that middle drive.
Mhm.
And what it does is it also gives you a lot more space to expand your retail.
Exactly.
More.
Well,
And
So that is gonna require, obviously, to allow us to move the meeting.
no, you don't even need the meeting. Retail is for citizens, right? As long as you don't need it, why do you care? Or you can move it. It's not a difficult one to move on.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
not a
saying,
big deal.
but otherwise it's going to be entrance from one way.
No, you have a, double wide driveway, 26 foot wide. And I think Mockingbird has so much traffic for your development, it'll be people to keep it right in, right out. A lot of times developers want that median because you want more traffic on your side, right? But it's not a Walmart, it's not a McDonald's, it's not. So what I mean is that I think that eliminating that, keeping that driveway in, right out,
Yeah, yes,
creating that, 90-degree, just like you mentioned, will give you a lot more flexibility, a lot more green space.
yeah,
Now, we can take that sidewalk and run it through that, retail it would be voila,
oh, yeah, much better.
much better, yeah.
Exactly. So, this is in response to the 60-degree angle parking, which in this case, a moot point.
Yeah, because, yeah, and the only reason I said that is because you waste a lot more space. You can have maybe 7 or 8 more cars in the same space if you do it that way versus this way. And, but surface parking, every space is 10, 40,000 these days, so.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Great.
And sort of going off that, Jesse mentioned that pedestrian experience from Mockingbird through the site, and I think that'll help with that. And then Jesse also mentioned, looking at sustainability of the different facades and the characteristics of, whether you're getting north, south facing, east and west, looking at each of those facades. Looking at the gutters, water catchment. Sarah mentioned the tree strategy, new plantings to complement the old plantings on site, preserving the existing and also just beefing up everything from additional trees to ornamental plantings at the retail to really beef that up. Looking at the fire lanes that was mentioned by multiple panel members, looking for more trees, comfort, potentially even some parking. And Kate said working the section with the topography, keep working on those studies, and making sure that the retaining walls are not a hindrance to the development. And then we have James' comments, which, I think he mentioned a lot of things that we all talked about, but also that landscape maintenance piece.
Sorry, can I add one more comment very
Yes.
quickly? In thinking about those east-west end elevations, they seem out of character with the rest of everything else that feels very sort of rigorously designed and nicely done. So I would encourage you to, like Jesse was saying, in addition to everything else, study those end conditions from a design perspective as well as a solar gate perspective.
Good comment. And on that note, I saw it, I didn't test, but look. That's just there.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we know, or is this liberty of the renderer?
I think that function would be a more of an amenity space that could have views to how the density that's happening in the southeast towards downtown.
Uh-huh.
So that's just looking at, we have amenity here, we have a courtyard, and then we have, an elevated deck on that east side. That would be able to be a secondary piece for alternatives.
All right. Well, Kate's comments, please take it into account. And I've said it is. Good. All right. Anything else from the development design team or from the panel? Yes.
Formality, did we do the minutes from last month? We did? Okay.
Yes. we-
Oh, it was probably when I was missing. with
Yes,
the
you were.
screen. Okay, cool.
The minutes have been approved.
I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay, with that, our meeting is adjourned, and Zach, we hope to see you again soon.
Over and over.
Kind of counting on